I'm Hobbs, and you're watching the Underground Bunker on the Bloodrock Media.
Holy shit!
You gotta get Schwifty! You gotta get Schwifty in here! It's time to get Schwifty! Whoa! You gotta get Schwifty! Oh yeah! Take off your pants and your panties!
Hello friends, welcome to another turgid episode of the Underground Bunker. I am your host, Hobbs. It's going to be a good show this week, and I've got a really good feeling about it. You all know what this is. It's a weekly web series where I showcase unsigned and underground bands that I think you ought to be paying attention to. Bands that are doing the work, son! And bands that really have some serious panache about them. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. This week I'm going to kick it off with some seriously heavy shit. Stuff that I don't normally do. But this week I figured I'd appease these serious metal heads with a band called Aetheric. These guys are a 5-piece melodic death metal band from Minneapolis, fucking Minnesota, and what place other than the Midwest could create such a sound? Well, probably every other place, but it's fucking Midwest, which means we do it a lot differently. And these guys are no exception to the rule. They got their start in 2013, and here's what's peculiar about them. They started 3 years before they actually put out their first disc, which I can only sort of attribute to them, you know, doing a whole bunch of shows right off the bat and getting their sound adjusted and getting it solidified. Maybe having some member switches at the beginning. I don't know. There's not a whole lot about them that I could find out, except for the fact that they did release their first disc, which is called Mutated Malevolence, in 2016. After that, they did get to working on a new disc. They actually just released another one last year, and it's really fucking good. The song that you're listening to is off that disc, and I highly recommend that you check the rest of it out sometime. Unfortunately, though, they don't really get to do a whole lot of gigging, which I think is unfortunate, because a band like this, I mean, they could do really, really well. One thing I really like about these guys is that their sound reminds me a lot of older bands, not really closely attributed to the gent era or the metalcore era, like Threat Signal. They remind me a lot of Threat Signal for some reason, and I really dug Threat Signal. I know they're still around, and they're not doing so much these days, but these guys remind me a lot of that. And as you can see, the singer just goes fucking nuts on stage. I mean, these guys do bring it on stage, which I like, but I think a big, huge downfall about music that does a lot of noodling is that you end up sort of staring at your guitar the whole time, which I really wish there, you know, I'm more of a groove kind of person, so, you know, while I do really get into this, it's kind of a thing for me. I wish, look at that, he's just sort of noodling on his bass. Anyway, they're not touring with them, but they are playing the Minneapolis stop of the Alter Beast and Rivers of Nile tour, and they're also, Rivers of Nile and Alter Beast are also coming to Milwaukee, so I'm definitely going to be there. But they're playing with Alter Beast and Rivers of Nile in Minneapolis, so in July, so if you have the means, go check them out. Meantime, you can find them on Facebook, and you can also find all their music on Bandcamp. This next group of burgeoning art fads I will bequeath unto you is basically, I don't even know, but they're called Vomitron. Now I love finding music like this because it's refreshing, because as a composer myself, you know, for the Toxic Dream, doing everything myself, I understand how difficult it is to do that one thing. And when you have music as intricate as what this guy is doing, it can probably take a while, and not to mention a lot of headaches from yourself and a whole bunch of other people who are trying to get you to do something other than the music. You know, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been like, dude, I never see you, this and that. Well, when you're this passionate about what you do, not to mention this good at what you're doing, it probably takes up a lot of his time. So I know he got his start in Lowell, Massachusetts. I hear he's been in like Ohio lately, though. I didn't get anything back from him. Do know that he started in 2002 doing this stuff, and back then it was just sort of demoing stuff, because he released a demo album in 2002, which is a bunch of like video game themes and some other stuff, which I fucking love. Matter of fact, I was going to talk about him at the PAX South special that I did, but again, there were too many bands to really talk about, so I knew I'd have to sneak him in sooner or later. What I really love about Vomitron is that he's got this weird, really, really cool, listenable mix of like Gent and Mocking the Supremacy, that band from Germany that I talked about several months ago. It's got that whole video game feel, but at the same time, it's metal as fuck! And that, to me, I know it's not the most interesting thing to some people at some times, but I really enjoy shit like that. Stuff that just sort of breaks the mold. You know, he doesn't do a whole lot of vocals. There are some stuff that he does. There's a cover of Eye of the Tiger that he did, and he did some singing on that. But for most of the stuff that he does, it's not, it doesn't have, it's mostly instrumental stuff. And I know a lot of people don't really get into the whole instrumental stuff. You know, there's a lot of prog stuff that people just sort of shy away from because it doesn't have any vocals. I'm not like that. I love stuff like that. Love stuff like that. Matter of fact, I do wish that he'd have like some sort of animated short based on one of his songs. I kind of wish that would be a thing, because it makes it a hell of a lot easier to listen to music if there's a visual aspect. Now, he released an album in 2002, but keep in mind, he was doing it by himself, and it had 11 fucking tracks on it, and since then, he's released 1 EP and 5 full-length albums, all on his own. So, dude's got some serious work ethic, and I wish I could meet him. So fucking cool. And I really, really love the sound. It's got a very, really good mix of video games and metal. Now, being a recording project that he doesn't do any shows, which is a shame, because I think something like this could translate very well to the stage. You know, even if it's just at like, you know, a video game convention or something like that. I still think people would enjoy watching this, especially if the guy got to work and did you know, spent the money on, you know, some visual stuff. I think that would be fucking awesome. Not to say that's going to happen. In fact, I don't even know if it could happen for him, but still, it's something I would like to see. But meantime, there's a bunch of people enjoying his music, and I'm fucking one of them. The current disc is basically a self-titled album. It's a re-release of some stuff that he did a while ago, completely remixed, completely remastered. It's just called Vomitron. You can pick it up on vomitron665.com or Bandcamp and Facebook.
Segway!
The next band I'm going to bring to you today is a band that I actually had the pleasure of playing with a few years ago. This is Act of Defiance. And these guys are fucking cool. Yeah, I got to play with them a few years ago when I was playing bass in a band called Haunted and Hopeless. We wore masks and everything, and a lot of fun. I miss that band. These guys, I played with them in Wausau, Wisconsin at the QNZ Expo Center, one of the coolest venues in the state, and they were some seriously cool guys. Caught up with them a couple of months ago. Didn't remember ever playing that show, but I suppose, you know, when you do that kind of tour schedule, they tend to blur together. I know that happens. Now, they're a 4-piece metal band from LA. They got their start in 2015, so they're relatively new as a band, but they're all really, really experienced musicians. A few of them have been in some bands that you might have heard of. Really quickly, I just would like to... A band like this can quickly get lumped in with other bands, and not that I don't like it, but the sound reminds me of a mix between like Machine Head, because the singer has that Rob Flynn sound, but he also sounds there's also parts of like Avenged Sevenfold, the good parts, and you really, really got to dig that, because it bridges the heavier stuff in what I think is sort of pussy metal. Not a fan of Avenged Sevenfold. I know a lot of people are, but they just sort of sound like a really kind of whiny, wussy version of Metallica. These guys are not like that at all. They're very fucking metal, and for a young band, they have done quite a lot in their time. They got together in 2015, and they quickly got to work. They got together, did an album, and quickly got the fuck out on the road. And because of all that, because like some serious connects, they signed a record deal with Metal Blade. Why they don't have a much bigger following because of that fact, I have no idea. But that being the case, they officially fall under my umbrella for the Underground Bunker, which I like because this is a kick-ass band and I think they need a bigger bump. Now, the record deal may have helped a little bit, but these guys do get the fuck out and tour their asses off. And because of that, and because of the fact that the album is really, really good, they've been managing to bring in some pretty consistent crowds. Speaking of the album, I covered it on bloodrockmedia.com several months ago. I got to review it. I gave it a kick-ass score because it's a severely metal fucking album, and it keeps my interest the entire time. If you have the means, I highly recommend you pick it up. It's called Old Scars, New Wounds. And if you want to read the review, it's right down there in the description on Bloodrock Media. They're gearing up for another tour again, and it's going to seriously kick your ass. Because if you haven't seen them live, you really need. They put it all out there on stage. Fucking love that. And if you don't get to see them, do check them out on Facebook, and you can also check them out on ActiveDefiance.com.
Segway.
Man, do I have a music boner for these guys. I love hearing music where I immediately just go, whoo, and that's not to diminish the fact that I have a actual boner for the singer. This is Blackbriar. Now, I love hearing about bands from across the pond, mostly because we don't hear enough of it. I mean, you hear about the ones that tour a lot, but these guys, they're not quite of that level yet. So whenever I hear about a band from Europe, I just do my homework, I do my research, and I find out as much as I can about them. And as soon as I heard these guys, I fell in love. Not just because the singer's gorgeous. Her name is Zora, by the way. She's got her own music thing going on. She does acoustics, sort of singer-songwriter acoustic stuff, which, if you listen to that on SoundCloud, is beautiful. And in fact, I'll be covering her solo stuff in about 2 months on the show. Amazing lyricist, beautiful voice all around. That said, the band's got some serious stuff going behind it, because not only is she an amazing singer, but the rest of the band are all talented musicians in their own right. The one cool thing I like about this band is, they've got sort of intricate music, but they don't fall under the Deaf Heaven syndrome, which I fucking hate. When the music is okay, this music, by the way, is fucking awesome. But the Deaf Heaven syndrome, let me break it down for you. Moderate to very interesting music, but then they put it on stage and it's boring as shit to watch. With Deaf Heaven, I kind of like the music these days, but watching them on stage is boring as fucking watching paint dry. And these guys are not do like that. Big stages can sort of leave people semi-motionless, but these guys don't do that. They traverse the stage, she's getting into it, and the drummer's a lot of fun to watch. And so you have that. You've got that good stage show. The fucking music is there, and I love it. And it reminds me of kind of like an upbeat Evanescence, not so much depressing kind of thing. She's definitely using all of her voice there, and I'm fucking into that. Certainly not Deaf Heaven. I wish they would come here, though. They don't do a whole lot of gigging, and I just wish they would do more. And I wish they'd find the money behind them to jump upon, because if they came here, with bands like Epica and Evanescence and all those other bands that really did it well with the melodic, the epic melodic rock, I think they do pretty well here. And so, Jesus. I think that they should start saving up their coins. Now, I've only got one gig scheduled this summer, which, you know, I don't think that they'll get more scheduled. It's next month. You can catch them in Hamburg, Germany. But being that they don't have the most full concert schedule, I can only hope that they're writing more music. If they are, I'm very happy about that, because I cannot wait to hear more of this stuff. You can hear their music on blackbriarmusic.com. You can also check out all their music and their music videos on their Facebook page.
Segway!
I found this next band while I was researching another band for another episode, and I can definitely say about these guys that their sound is very, very much of their environment, which I like. This is Gravel Switch.
Chasing thoughts in my head, keep replaying everything you said. Picture you naked in my bed, all a part of the stuff that I'm dead. Running, going out.
Gravel Switch! Now, this video is kind of fun to watch. It's kind of a demo style, and it harkens back to what the actual song is about. And we'll get to that. These guys are a 4-piece rock band from Jamestown, Kentucky, a town that has less than 2,000 people living there. So when I tell you that they're from Kentucky and they're from a very, very small town, you can immediately glean that this band that formed, God, I think it was 2010 or 2011, this band is very of their environment. It's got a rock feel to it, but it also has a very evident country feel to it, which, given where they're from and given the area that it's in, makes a lot of sense. Now, the video you're watching, not the song you're listening to, but the video you're watching is of them doing a Johnny Cash cover of Folsom Prison. And not the worst cover I've ever heard of that song in the world. Pretty good to listen to. One thing I really like about this band, too, is just from looking at them, I mean, this is shot sort of demo-ish guerrilla style recording. They're a lot of fun to watch, and all their live stuff is really cool to watch too. These guys actually do put on a really, really good show. And despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan of maple fretboards in the bass, all their stuff just sounds really, really well mixed. They just got off tour, and I'm really pissed off that I missed them, because they did, I think it was 2 or 3 dates right in my neck of the woods. So I'm kind of pissed off that I missed them. So guys, if you happen to get back to Wisconsin, do let me know. You'll have a place to crash, I guarantee it. Because they're only doing 2 gigs this summer, I can only assume and hope that they're writing new music, because they released a disc called House of Cards last year, and for me, guys, not enough music. Just not enough. I need more. So you can find all their stuff on Reverb Nation, which I don't understand why they don't have a Bandcamp. Everybody else does. Anyway, find their stuff on Reverb Nation, and you can also check them out on Facebook, of course. That's it for this week's episode of the Underground Bunker, friends. I invite you once again to like and subscribe. You all know how this works. It's YouTube. It's been around, God. Can you believe YouTube's been around for like 15 years already? Maybe 16 or 17? Jesus, I'm old. Anyway, so, you all know how it works. Give the band some of your love. They all need your love. They all need your support. They need you to buy shit. CD sales are back up. That means for the first time in, God, it's got to be 10 years, CDs are popular again, not to mention tapes and vinyls. So do yourself a favor, support music, go out and buy this stuff. Get out to a festival and buy their stuff. Enjoy the party. I am Hobbs. I'm out.